October's greetings. I'm your host, Dr. Wolfula, and I'm still editing the big October videos. Just trust me. The videos are gonna be great, I swear. If they're not, may I be struck by lightning. In the meantime, though, I have a review of The Exorcist Believer for you fine folks. The 5th entry in the Exorcist franchise, or 6th if you count the 2 alternate versions of the Exorcist prequel as 2 separate movies. I'm already confused. Exorcist Believer was directed by David Gordon Green just after finishing his controversial Halloween trilogy. Believer intended to be the beginning of a new Exorcist trilogy itself, which is maybe a little overly ambitious of a plan before the first movie even comes out and you find out if people like it or not. I myself liked Green's Halloween trilogy, but it was flawed. You think he'd take a step back to process feedback on his previous trilogy, or at least just focus on making one good Exorcist movie, instead of going into this project knowing you'll have a couple other shots at it.
God played that trick on you.
The other insane aspect of the production behind this Exorcist trilogy is Universal spent $400 million on the rights to these new Exorcist movies from owner Morgan Creek, nearly $500 million on Exorcist sequels. The last Exorcist movie released in theaters made $250,000. Bad example, I know, but hundreds of millions of dollars on Exorcist movies is a seriously risky move. They'd have to be really fucking good to make all that money back. It especially didn't look good when Exorcist Believer had to push its Friday the 13th release forward to avoid competition with another horror movie releasing the same day. Taylor Swift The Eras Tour, and I don't blame them. Taylor Swift scares the fuck out of me. So anyway, is Exorcist Believer good enough to make its investment back? Of course not. Here's my review of Exorcist Believer. But first, I have a message from my sponsor, me. Pledge to my Patreon today to support the channel, help it continue to grow, and you'll also get access to weekly movie nights every Sunday and archive commentaries if you miss the movie nights live. Just $5 a month to get a movie night every week. Pledge to patreon.com/Dr. Wolfula if you're interested, and I thank you in advance.
Dad?
Exorcist Believer is the tale of 2 girls who, after going missing for 3 days, become possessed by Pazuzu.
Pazuzu!
Pazuzu! The demon that possessed Regan McNeil back in the 70s. Little trivia, the original version of Exorcist 3 before creator William Peter Blatty was involved was supposed to be about Regan giving birth to twins, who become possessed, but Blatty nixed those plans and made the 3rd film based on the official sequel to his original book. So Believer dusts off the idea of a dual possession, but the girls, Angela and Catherine, aren't related pretty obviously. No wait, they're not sisters? They're just good friends, but we don't get to spend much time with them pre-possession, get to know them, have an idea of what the 2 are even like as friends.
I love you. Good morning, Mr. Fielding.
Instead, we mainly spend time with the parents of the girls, but even then, we don't get to know too much about the parents besides the father of Angela, Victor, played by Leslie Odom Jr.
What are you and Catherine doing out there in those woods?
I wanted to talk to Mom.
Victor has a tragic backstory related to his daughter, Angela. When Victor and his pregnant wife were in Haiti for a photography project, an earthquake struck, resulting in Victor having to choose whether his wife or unborn daughter lives. Angela, of course, lived, and she has a good relationship with her dad, Victor, but he's still touchy when it comes to the topic of Angela's deceased mother. Losing his wife also shook Victor's faith. He's since become an atheist, but with the guidance of his religious neighbor, Anne, Victor goes on a spiritual journey to try to rescue his daughter Angela. Oh, and Angela's friend too, I guess. What's her name? Catherine? Who fucking cares? We barely know anything about her. Just throw in an extra girl that looks like Regan. Don't bother fleshing her out at all. All that matters is she kinda looks like Regan for the poster.
Don't be scared, Mother.
Exorcist Believer falls apart because it tries to tackle way too much in one story. There are just too many characters and not enough time to spend with them. It stretches itself thin dealing with the 2 families grappling with the same problem and ends up focusing on the single father Victor, but he doesn't spend any time trying to connect to the family of his daughter's friend. Catherine's family starts out antagonistic towards Victor, but eventually they forge an alliance to save their kids. But there isn't a satisfying path to reaching that point. They just set up an exorcism together. Catherine's family is hardcore Christian, so you'd think the obstacle to cross in making the exorcism happen would be Victor the atheist. But the exorcism is Victor's idea through the urging of a certain legacy
Have you
character.
ever seen anything like this?
No, but there are people out there who have.
A big aspect of Exorcist Believer's marketing, which is insane considering how much this movie cost to make, is that the 90-year-old Ellen Burstyn came out of retirement to play Chris McNeil, Regan's mother from the original movie, which, you know, is cool, but it's not exactly the same as David Gordon Green getting Jamie Lee Curtis to return to fight Michael Myers. Chris in Exorcist Believer even points out that she wasn't present for the exorcism in the original movie because of the patriarchy. Oh boy. Those two men died saving your daughter from eternal damnation, Chris. And you know, Chris McNeil isn't present for the exorcism in this movie either, at least physically. That's the hypocritical patriarchy of 4 men writing a horror movie.
There are many dark forces in this world, Mr. Fielding. Not all of them are supernatural.
Ellen Burstyn's role, despite being highly publicized, is just a glorified cameo. She only has like 4 or 5 scenes in the movie, and you could easily cut her out and not lose much beyond some nostalgia or some connection to the original movie. And I don't know, I think it would take a hardcore Exorcist fan to get excited about the mom from the original movie coming back screaming, "Yeah!"
I don't think there's anything more terrifying.
And no joke, much like fucking Mandalorian's Luke Skywalker cameo, at one point Exorcist Believer does have a CGI de-aged Ellen Burstyn appear with a creepy voice manufactured by AI. It's a little weird. But yeah, Chris doesn't really participate in the plot much at all. She just has a minor story arc that did kind of pull my heartstrings a bit, but it just felt like such a waste of bringing back Ellen Burstyn when she doesn't do anything. Like it was maybe just setting up her actually doing something in the next movie. But they better make it quick because Ellen Burstyn is in her fucking 90s. In the context of this one movie though, Ellen Burstyn's role is just fan service to try to legitimize this Exorcist as a direct sequel to the original film, which is a huge shame. It's like David Gordon Green's take is always having a character from the original film show up as an old lady to fight the evil again, but at least Jamie Lee Curtis got to do things. The possessed girls and the actual exorcism they undergo is a massive drop from the original Exorcist. No boundaries are pushed in the depiction of a possession. I don't even know why Pazuzu keeps possessing little girls at this point. All they can do is say, fuck you! You think he possessed The Rock or somebody else if he wanted to actually do some evil. But yeah, the possessed girls in this film don't hold a candle to Regan from the original movie. Regan did some fucking crazy shit back in the day. Movies in the 70s were a lot more punk rock.
You know what she did? Your canting daughter?
The things the girls do in this new movie are so much more tame in comparison. Like they're holding back and trying to not make a scary Exorcist movie. Oh no, Catherine interrupts a church sermon. That's so rude. Angela keeps flicking the light switch like Nosferatu. Oh god, oh no!
What'd you say?
I didn't say nothing.
You'd think this new Exorcist would up the ante at least in the obvious, easier way with more deaths, but the original Exorcist has a higher body count. The new movie also employs a disappointing amount of CGI too, which just makes it hard to take the film seriously. At one point during the exorcism, a cloud of what looks like pixie dust is expelled from the possessed girls' mouths, and it just looks cartoony. Part of what made the original Exorcist so effective is that it felt real, grounded, like it could happen. It gradually built up to the crazy shit with Regan. In Believer, we spend a lot of time with Victor for an hour before his daughter turns up possessed, but then the movie just rushes things along to a swift, uneventful bummer of a conclusion. But, you know, we got to check in with Ellen Burstyn along the way. Wasn't that something? She's doing well for her age.
I don't want to go to hell.
I just kind of question the point of even making new Exorcist movies and spending nearly $500 million to make it happen. The original film is a masterpiece, but it's like Jaws. They don't make Jaws sequels anymore, not just because they were bad, but because anybody can make a shark movie. With Without the original cast returning, there's nothing that would make a Jaws sequel special besides the name. Same thing with making more Exorcist movies. We've seen so many exorcism films that have explored so many different angles you can go in with the premise. We've even seen Shark Exorcist. Exorcist movies have been exhausted. Just this year, Asylum made a movie starring Doug Bradley called The Exorcists. And man, he'll appear in this shit, but he keeps turning down Hellraiser sequels?
Corey.
And don't even get me started on the Pope getting an exorcist this year.
What you're doing here is dangerous. People have died on both sides of possession.
Point is, there's nothing to get excited about with a new Exorcist movie at this point. But they still spent a ton of money on one anyway. They'll never get it back, unless Exorcist Believer is some kind of elaborate money laundering scheme, and you know, I guess that's all Hollywood really is if you think about it. I might be biased as a hardcore Halloween fan, but I could understand making new sequels to Halloween. It has the iconography of Michael Myers backing it up, the seasonal setting, and the Carpenter's score that sets it apart from imitators. And a Halloween film is cheaper, so it can get a return of investment more easily. With Exorcist, the icon is a possessed girl, but anybody can make a movie with a possessed girl in it, so we've seen the idea done to death. It also doesn't help Exorcist Believer's case that the original film's director, William Friedkin, died just a few months before release. Friedkin was against the new film, so people are gonna be a lot more harsh towards this new movie, rightfully protective towards Friedkin's legacy.
Your mother sucks cocks in hell, Paris, you faithless swine.
Which is more of a reaction than this movie deserves. Exorcist Believer honestly isn't a bad movie, but it's just really mediocre. I love the original Exorcist, but I wasn't begging for a sequel. But I did like David Gordon Green's Halloween movies, and I was hoping he'd have a fresh new take on the Exorcist premise that would set it apart from all the other exorcism movies that have come out in the years since the original. But it doesn't. It just kinda sucks. It feels like David Gordon Green just really liked the original Exorcist like he did Halloween. Found out they were making another one and wanted to be in charge of it, but didn't have a cool idea to carry the movie. He just wanted to make an Exorcist film. Halloween 2018 wasn't crazy original, but what made it work as a requel and got people excited was that it was reopening the world of Haddonfield for Michael Myers to return. In Exorcist Believer, we only get little glimpses of a connection to the original movie. They barely even play Tubular Bells in the new film. Exorcist Believer is kinda weird because it feels like it wants to be its own thing for most of the movie, but it also gives us superfluous nostalgia, like it's giving the audience a little treat for watching the rest of the film. It doesn't want to fully embrace nostalgia, but it doesn't have a problem with throwing it in our faces every now and then to keep us interested.
Are you looking for a gun?
I give Exorcist Believer a Catherine out of Angela. I don't choose you, Catherine. Nobody fucking cares about Catherine. There'll be more David Gordon Green horror antics in my upcoming mega review of Halloween Ends, which might be my longest video ever. Get subscribed and click the bell so you don't miss it when it goes live on Halloween. After spending $400 million on Exorcist sequels, I really hope Universal saved their receipt. If you liked this video, like it, and if you loved it, click the subscribe and bell buttons for more vids. I'd also like to thank these fine folks pledged my shout-out tier on Patreon for all their kind support. Videos like this wouldn't be possible without all their help. Thank you for watching, see you next time. Dr. Wolfula signing out.